ahead. Chairman, thank you again. Let me just, I'm going to mostly visit with Chair White, but let me make sure that I have an understanding with you, Chairman Gensler, about MF Global and the status of the civil proceedings and or criminal proceedings with John Corzine. I asked that you would take my question to either Commissioner Summers or to your staff and ask for a response to me or to the committee. I want to make certain that that you would ask them to respond to me in a matter of days, hours, or days, not weeks or months. This is a very timely topic, and I'd like to have a response as quickly as possible, and by that I mean a day or two. Way too often, and I'm not directing this to you, Chairman Gensler, but so many times in the request for a written answer from a witness from our agencies, it's weeks, months, and sometimes forgotten. And I just want to make certain that our understanding is that you will respond in the next day or two.
I guess the record will show that John Riley shook his head.
Since you can't answer the question, Chairman, the record shows that John Riley nodded his head affirmatively, and I thank you for that. Chair White, let me ask about the Jobs Act. We had a conversation about this in your confirmation hearing, and I appreciated your answer then. I want to go into two areas in regard to that legislation. First of all, Title II of the Jobs Act removed the ban on general solicitation for issuers who sell securities only to accredited investors. The SEC has published proposed rules that eliminate this ban on advertising, provided issuers, quote, take reasonable steps to verify that the purchasers of the securities are accredited investors. I believe the SEC has said that they will make a determination whether or not that test has been met on a case-by-case basis. There's a problem with that in people trying to conduct their business. And my question to you is, what does reasonable steps mean in practice? How can someone know that there is a safe harbor, that they'll not be criticized by the SEC if they're out pursuing investors in their company? And this question comes to me from angel investors in our state. Something that we desperately need in Kansas and across the country is people who are willing to invest in these startup businesses. And there is this significant level of uncertainty as to whether or not they are complying with your regulation, or whether they would comply with your proposed regulation.
Yes, and I think you're absolutely right, Senator. I think the proposal essentially envisioned a facts and circumstances test, what I call a principles-based approach. We've gotten a number of comments to the same effect as your constituencies have given to you, that there is a need for more certainty, a non-exclusive list at least, and a non-exclusive safe harbor that would actually specify some of the steps that would be taken as in satisfaction absent some obviously contrary information that would undermine that. That is an area where the staff and the commissioners are quite focused as they work their way through this.
Thank you very much for that answer, and just would suggest that in the failure to figure out a different answer than a case-by-case basis, my guess is that that provision, the encouragement of investment in startup companies, will not occur, that the legislation, the Jobs Act, its purpose will not be fulfilled if we simply leave this up to a case-by-case basis. So I thank you for the suggestion that it's being taken seriously. And then on our usual conversation that I know that you get, and I always hate to be one who asks the same question that you are asked numerous times, and I asked you this back in, I believe it was February at the confirmation hearing. Can you tell us about the crowdfunding rules and their finalization? And is it a problem of they're so complex that it's taking a long time, or there's so much work at the SEC, other rules take priority? And I know that you will not answer this question. I certainly know that you don't want to answer the question, and I doubt that you will. But can you give us the time frame in which these rules will be finalized?
The crowdfunding rules that you mentioned, and I know there has been a lot of excitement out there, hopefully not diminished by the passage of time. that is a rulemaking. Just stepping back, I can't give you a time or date, you're right. But my focus since the day I arrived there was essentially to look at all of the work streams that we had on rulemakings, make sure to the extent possible that they were parallel and you didn't have the same people working on different rules, because obviously that slows down progress. And the crowdfunding is among the very top priorities that we are really working on quite actively. There are complexities in it. It's a heavy lift in some ways, as you know, funding portals, for example, and rules with the registration with FINRA need to be worked out. We're coordinating very closely with them, both on substance and timing. So we're in very active engagement on that rulemaking. That's about as much as I can say today, I think.
If I had more time, I would have asked about the two topics you just raised, FINRA and portals, which I think deserve, there's specific questions and issues about them within this regulatory process as well. Let me conclude with my final 58 seconds. Too often, I read in the press and see in the media that an agency has had an expensive, extravagant conference, seminar, that brings a black eye to Congress, the people who oversee the funding, but certainly a black eye to the agencies and its leadership in a time in which you are here bemoaning the fact, and perhaps that's too strong, but I guess you would be decrying the fact that we need more resources. Sequestration is a problem. The continuing resolution is a problem. There's no good time ever to waste taxpayer dollars. But I would like for each of you to assure me that there is no chance that I'm going to open the paper or turn on the news and see that either one of your agencies has conducted a seminar, workshop, conference in some extravagant location with some entertainment that's unbecoming of your profession, and that is not within the tight constraints that a budget requires. Do I need to have any worries about what I might see or hear in regard to the the CFTC or the SEC?
I certainly hope not, Senator. I think we have very tight controls over our conferences. I mean, obviously you need to train and meet to carry out your functions. In toto, the conferences are held on SEC premises. The expenses are extraordinarily modest, limited to per diem typically, and they're layers of approval depending on how much the conference costs. It's quite modest costs.
No, we don't have a luxury even to come close to that. So I think you have that assurance. We do at times send people to conferences that are hosted by others, and we try to keep those numbers to a minimum number. But no,
and let me make clear that I don't find it objectionable for professional staff at the SEC or the CFTC or other government agencies to attend appropriate, reasonable conferences that are designed to educate and to bring people within the industry. One of the things you will hear me consistently complain about is the uncertainty of what you're doing at the CFTC or the SEC among those people you regulate. In my view, you ought to be having the opportunity for you to convey to them what's happening at your agency, and they ought to have the opportunity to convey to you their concerns and complaints. So mine is not raising the issue that you should not be out among the folks that you regulate, providing input, getting input, but we all know there's a way to do that and there's a way not to do it. And I just want to make certain that when and if that occurs, you're doing it in the appropriate manner. And I would say that both of you answered my question in the affirmative, and I appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
I think I answered that question.
Great.
I hope to your satisfaction. Okay.
And as I tried to indicate, both of you indicated that there is not a scandal in the works.
Right. Definitely not. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Moran.